their public infrastructure, when you may find that in some of these cases, they were taking policies and programs which were first written in Zambia by the very people you see, some of them sitting right here at this table. So going forward, the Zambia Institute of Architects is firmly committed to promoting its core business by promoting excellence in architectural design, upholding professional standards, and ensuring compliance in the Zambian built environment. We acknowledge and appreciate the guidance that was provided by our honored Vice President at the last AGM held in Livingstone in the last week. And her call was that architects should be in the forefront to lead the development of housing, social infrastructure, and other capital projects, particularly those that have now been funded by the Constituency Development Fund, also known as CDF. We want to make sure that our institute perfectly aligns to the policies of government so that we can be a key partner in delivering development. Going forward, it only serves all of us that when any project in the built environment is being planned, that architects are at the forefront of planning, execution, and monitoring these projects to ensure that they deliver the best value for our citizens, the best value for the expenditure which government is putting on these projects. Huge sums of money, taxpayers' money. Money is contributed by our very own citizens, sometimes under very difficult conditions, must be not only accounted for, but used properly according to the standards that the Zambian people expect. Our council was recently elected, and I can affirm that it has a clean and clear mandate to restore integrity in the architectural space through professional execution of our duties and accountability and transparency. Architects have a third-party duty of care that, for instance, if a building is unhealthy or dangerous or at risk of collapse, or indeed collapses and injures, or there is loss of life, the architects are held accountable because they are the first line of defense to make sure that all these safety measures are put in place long before all the other components come into play. The absence of architectural professionals, even in some of our councils, in the majority of the construction that is going around the country, is a great disadvantage, because most of our developers find that even with your experience as an individual building, there's a lot of learning that happens. You may successfully build your first house, and in hindsight and with experience, and once you begin to live in it, you begin to notice the myriads of problems, the myriads of omissions, the myriads of improvements that could have been made, and the waste of probably of space and of resources. But at that point, it's too late. The mistakes have already been made. What we would like to promote is a situation where citizens realize that employing a professional from the onset is actually beneficial, it's cost effective, it increases the value of the property in question. Just like any other profession, it would be next to suicide for somebody requiring surgery to propose that they perform surgery on themselves. Equally, for most people, investment in a house or a personal dwelling sometimes is the biggest investment that they will make in their lives. So why would you risk an unprofessional development with your biggest investment? It's only logical that should you need assistance, you approach an architect or friend that you might know to advise you. You approach the Zambia Institute of Architects to channel you into the right direction so that the value of your investment at the planning stage is protected. And equally, this goes to our community projects being done under CDF. The complaints are well documented in the media of projects being done that are substandard, that do not have the prerequisite technical professionals available, and as a result, citizens in the communities themselves feel that they're getting a raw deal. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a solution. And the solution, as far as it comes to the built environment, begins with the Zambia Institute of Architects. In collaboration with our allied professional bodies, like our engineers, our planners, our quantity surveyors, and indeed our duly registered compliant contractors who deliver these projects. Our council is committed to working closely with these allied professionals and to put an end to illegal practice of architecture. And we are committed to end this scourge. Together, those who break the law with impunity will answer for themselves. Zia will collaborate with the Inspector General of Police, whose representative is present here, to make sure that lawbreakers in this space are brought to book. Because the illegalities, some of them are so big that anybody who is passing by can see that this is illegal, it is wrong, doesn't look right, and it's a blemish on our landscape. Many of these projects sometimes are undertaken in an environment where illegal workers are brought into the country. Some of them are taking away jobs from the locals. Others have got no permits, have got no proper documentation. They are not paying taxes. And the overall loss to the economy and to the country is humongous. So we need to make sure that we tighten up and make sure that those of us who wish to come and work in Zambia in this space or are investing are also equally protected and not exposed to the risk of the legalities. Because sometimes an investor might have all the right intentions, but the individuals on the ground are criminal or illegally minded. So we want to protect our investors, local and foreign. We want to protect our investment at household and personal level. And if we are in the space of the built environment, the architect is your number one port of call to make sure that this investment is protected. Some of the measures that will be taken are to ensure that as drawings or designs are submitted to the local council, an architectural profession is either supervising, designing, and monitoring the entire process all the way to construction. Because it is one thing to get a project approved, and you will agree with me. But on the other hand, you find that as you go to the site, it's placed in the wrong space, it blocks the road, It's built around the ZESCO pole. I think these glaring examples have been in the public space for far too long, and there's no reason for all of us to allow such a situation to continue. The Zambia Institute of Architects has also pledged to undertake a nationwide compliance review in collaboration with city councils, Ministry of Infrastructure, the Ministry of Local Government, the National Council for Construction. So you will be seeing from time to time our representatives and our partners actually reporting to the public and to the government what measures have been taken and what benefits are being yielded from these actions. Because an unplanned structure, an unplanned environment becomes very costly to manage. Issues of drainage, issues of sewage, issues of garbage collection, issues of traffic and congestion all compound and make it very costly, or a very costly environment to live in. Those who are found wanting, the law has got prescribed penalties, and offenders may find themselves having their structures demolished, the projects halted, being levied with fines, being jailed or deported, or having their licenses revoked. We also reiterate our full support for the orders which were given recently. I think for one very prominent mall near the Kafue roundabout, which has been built over a water drainage and supply line, a large utility that is supposed to benefit the entire city of Lusaka. Why should one illegality choke the rest of the city? This is unacceptable. Recently, the National Council for Construction and the Zambia Institute of Architects also inspected a shopping development in Monze, in Southern Province, where there were no proper professionals doing the designs of a public facility, no registered professionals involved in the construction, massive structure, and a massive investment, all done illegally without proper papers. The Zambia Institute of Architects, on the strength of the report by our collaborative agency, the National Council for Construction, has summoned these individuals today to appear before an organ of the council to determine what remedial measures will be taken. This is just a start, and there are plenty of infringements that will be followed up in the coming months. We also wish to encourage the public to approach our institute in areas where they are unclear or require advice or direction when planning and implementing their construction. We would like to believe that all of us wish to be compliant with the law, and the Zambia Institute of Architects stands ready to help in this compliance. The Ministry of Local Government recently decreed that all submissions of drawings to the councils across the country should bear the seal of the registered architect to show that this mark of compliance has been met. And this directive we completely support. Non-compliance, ladies and gentlemen, undermines public safety and integrity of not only the profession, but also the integrity of our built environment. It is high time that we stopped admiring what other countries are doing and cleaned up our own space, because no one will do this for us. In conclusion, our youth council is committed to cleaning up the architectural space. I think focusing as well on the public spaces like parks and common areas, which basically have been left untended. There are community buildings and community spaces which have been transformed almost to an unrecognizable state. We will be engaging with our ministries, we will be engaging with the public to ensure that we can also have spaces, parks, plazas, town squares, public buildings and areas that we can be proud of, that can be iconic, where people, whether tourists from within ourselves or foreign tourists, can go to those particular spaces and take photos that I was in this location, in Zambia, and it will be recognized by just seeing the picture that this is Zambia, this is Lusaka, or this is Ndola. Right now, we would struggle to identify any single location where a tourist or a Zambian tourist would go to, probably apart from the Victoria Falls. So we can do this and create tourist locations and donations and locations within our own city space by deliberately ensuring that we work together on our aspirations to develop our country. We would like to thank our cooperating partners for reaffirming our commitment to protecting the public and safeguarding investment and upholding the highest standards of architectural practice. Let us together build a better and a safer Zambia. I thank you. So following up, I would like to call upon our Deputy Commissioner Daka, representing the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Raphael Musamba, to also say a few words on our common drive to protect this country and protect the public in this space. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, President. The Zambia Institute of Architects President, AIZ President, ZIP President, distinguished members of the Zambia Institute of Architects Council, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with great responsibility and commitment that I address you today on behalf of the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Raphael Musamba. Zambia Police stands in full support of the Zambia Institute of Architects in their steadfast efforts to combat the illegal practice of architecture without a valid practicing license issued by the ZIA Council. We as Zambia Police recognize that architects carry a third-party duty of care, a critical responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of the public in the built environment. This important duty of care may not be observed by individuals who are not registered architects. Consequently, clients who engage non-architects are subjecting the public to significant risks. It is essential that all individuals practicing architecture in Zambia hold a current and valid license from ZIA. This ensures they meet the necessary qualifications and adhere to the regulations designed to protect public safety and maintain the profession's integrity. Zambia Police Service, therefore, supports the removal of unqualified individuals posing as registered architects. Recent investigations have highlighted numerous instances where individuals, including foreign nationals, have engaged in architectural practice without the requisite licenses from ZIA. This not only undermines the credibility of our architectural profession, but also poses significant risks to the public safety. In our legitimate quest to ensure public safety and security, and also in ensuring that architectural law is observed, the Zambia Police Service, working in collaboration with the ZIA Council, will pursue prosecutions against any such individuals circumventing and abrogating the ZIA Act and other operative laws. We wish to warn that immediate arrest or deportation may follow for those found in violation. Let this be taken with the severity that the government sees this matter. The Zambia Police is committed to upholding the law and ensuring that all professionals practicing architecture within our borders comply with the legal requirements. We will work closely with the ZIA Council to identify and prosecute offenders, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the architectural profession and the safety of the public. We urge all architects and stakeholders to ensure compliance with the regulations and to report any instances of illegal practice. Together, we can create a built environment that upholds the highest standard of quality and safety. In conclusion, let this be a clear message to all that the Zambia Police, in partnership with the ZIA Council, will not tolerate any breaches of the law. We will take swift and decisive action to protect the public and uphold the integrity of the architectural profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to point out that earlier I introduced our single lady on this council by a different name. Her full names are Akakandelwa Mweni, and I think she brings balance to our new council. Apologies for that. So I think going forward, I think we can allow for, some questions from the members of the press, from information that has been shared.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Rachel Mumba. I'm from Diamond TV. I have a question regarding the Society Business Park. I mean, from what you've said, it is evident that someone didn't do their job when they were constructing that building. What is first of all the future of the Society Business Park, and what are you? I mean, ZIA working with other collaborating entities. What are you doing to make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen again? But then again, what is the future? What are some of the outcomes of the investigations that you've had, if I call it any? And then secondly, I mean, we're in the rainy season. We take a drive around Lusaka. There's a very ugly sight that you see, clogged drainages. what is being done to make sure that the construction of drainages is done by professionals, but also working in collaboration with city planning? What is being done to make sure that our drainages are clear, so that we can have we don't have the ugly things that we're seeing, such as floods and the litter that we're seeing in the drainages. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I think I'll take your first questions. I think some of them I've got an able counsel with me here, and any one of them can tackle these questions. On Society Business Park, it's taken a long time for the investigations and for the action to roll through, and naturally it's a large investment, so we would allow for the due process and for all the various consultations and all the legal and procedural matters to be undertaken. It is indeed a very serious development that such a large public investment has had to be closed down, and a large investment chain such as Hilton have had to be halted. The Zambia Institute of Architects will follow what has already been dictated in the law, and anybody found wanting, whether it's our member or it's a member of the public who breaches any of the provisions of Cap 442, which is the Zambia Institute of Architects Act, shall face the law without favor. I think at this stage we are in the process and would allow the process to take its due course. On the issue of drainage and the construction of drainage and the garbage which is piling up, we have a common duty, not only as an institute, but also the public has a common duty to make sure that we take every step and measure to ensure that, first of all, this garbage does not land up in public spaces, because litter primarily sometimes starts with our own citizens throwing away garbage in undesignated places. But secondary to that, you will also discover that because a lot of the planning, a lot of the standards, a lot of the design elements which go with an urban environment were first of all missed out, because your architects were not present, or it was not deemed expedient at the time that they help you with making sure that all these issues are taken care of, not only on the private domestic level, but also in the public spaces. Things like bins, things like where areas where you have blind spots or areas that are inconveniently articulated, they're not properly lit, you can't pass through or travel through that area properly, you find that they become prone to misuse. So at the initial stage, when some of these spaces are being designed or are being repurposed for use, it's very, very important that you involve a professional architect to think through how these spaces can be used. So instead of a corner being used as a garbage dump, it could have some public art. But because no opportunity was given, it either becomes a small cantemba with no sanitary or waste disposal facilities, and the degradation continues. We just let that pass. I think for us as the Institute of Architects, this is a call for us not to let both our private and public spaces to be taken over by insanity. These are our spaces. Why would we neglect them and allow them to be misused, allow them to be overrun by garbage, allow them to be overrun by unplanned structures? I think we owe ourselves a duty of care as well as citizens to make sure that not only do we ensure that we take every step and every advice given by professionals to ensure that we get the best possible outcome, but we also must not be casual about it as citizens. We also have a part to play. And I think it's a partnership rather than a sole responsibility of the Institute. And we encourage this partnership, and we encourage you to continue to ask the questions and advocate for these things to be done. The next question.
Good morning, Council. I'm Boston from KBN TV. I'd just like to get your clarification on the penalties of the offenders and to what extent you operate. You just focus on these public spaces, or maybe just someone building in a house has to engage you, just like that.
Thank you. I think on the matter of penalties, the majority of these penalties actually, and the majority of these sanctions that offenders or wrongdoers or those who are in breach of the law, the majority of them actually fall under our existing laws. And as our Deputy Commissioner had said, the full extent of punishment and the full option of punishments that the state can impose on an offender are all still there, including jail, including monetary fines, probably the deportation. Probably the commissioner can elaborate on what the law says in terms of punishment.
I think just like you've correctly answered, the law does impose punishment for non-compliance to the stipulations of the ZIA Act, and also in some instances, some of these acts border on crimes that you would find in the penal code itself. So the penalties range from jail sentence to payment of fines, and in the case of foreigners, they can even be deported where they violate the ZIA Act or other laws that are operative in the area of architecture. Thank you.
My name is Mangaira. I write for Zambia 24. My question is similar to the first one, but it's focusing on one particular building, which sometimes back it was clear that it was not safe. It's along Kapengo Road. This is but now it's being occupied. What has gone on? Have you certified that particular building safe? And what has changed from the area time when it was said that people cannot do their business?
Good morning, members of the press. I'll talk in general rather than specifically, because I'm fully aware of this particular building that you're asking about. There have been a lot of illegalities that have been taking place. Not only that building. Me talking only about that building would actually do a lot of injustice to what the commissioner and the Zia President has spoken about. There are a lot of buildings in the CBD of Lusaka, Kitwe, Kabwe, major cities in the country that unfortunately we have had a lot of illegalities taking place. One, because there are no professionals involved. Two, there has been problems before. And even when illegality is taking place, for some of these previous administration, and I'm not talking about government, I'm not talking about professional bodies, all local authorities have not taken time to look into how to solve this problem. The particular building we are talking about was declared unfit, was declared unsafe in public use. At the moment we make choices to go and ask for it to get demolished, you end up getting people telling you you cannot do that because you've got a local councillor or someone else who stands in the path of some of these things that we want to do. So we've had chance to talk with the police, and I can assure you that this council will look into the details of what has actually happened, because we just come into office. This is just about a week that we're into office. We will actually be able to have another probably press conference specifically about that building, because it is a scourge on our CBD at the moment. I think there's a lot of illegal occupation, for instance, is taking place. There's a lot of social issues that are taking place there, and I wouldn't want to go into the details of prostitution, illegal trafficking, kids that are sleeping in there without parents and things like that. So it is an issue that I think the current government has actually brought it out in a couple of meetings that we've held. But I can promise you, you hear from this council that has come into place. Our core business is to put right that which is wrong. And you get to hear from us very, very soon.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You hinted on one is a situation where you someone said, doesn't give more details. What sort of project is that? And what has gone on with that? Just more details.
I can talk about it. On the Monze one, it's a shopping complex, a shopping mall. And I was one of the inspectors that turned up at the place. I'll just give you an idea of just how much illegal stuff is happening in this country. The supervisor was an accountant, and I don't understand how an accountant can supervise engineering work, architectural work. There was an accountant as a supervisor. The foreman was a Lebanese national who hardly could speak English, so I couldn't get anything out of him. And the developer is a foreign national. They are registered with NCC properly, but they have not engaged. A professional architect to do the design. They have not engaged anybody from the EIZ, that's the Engineering Institute of Zambia, to get an engineer to do it. But they have drawings that seem okay to a lay person. But to someone who is trained in construction, you'll actually see that this is a future disaster in waiting. So what we did is we've asked them to come today to bring, not only to bring their permissions that they've got, to bring also work permits of the foreign nationals that are there, and who allowed them to continue actually constructing. So this is an issue similar to what you've seen at the Carousel shopping mall, which I was also involved in. And that building at the moment, NCC has now declared it needs to be put down because it is actually a safety issue that cannot be rectified by retrofitting it or doing something to it. So the Monze people will be seeing them this afternoon, and you will hear us announce this probably by issuing them. I hope we can get some of your details. We'll send you the information of the outcome of our findings this afternoon. Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. My name is Sharon from Times. I noticed that you consistently mention the lawlessness that's happening in your city. Are there specific rules that guide you in terms of you being part of the instructions from the initial stage? For example, you mentioned the issues of CDM constructions. is there a deliberate law that puts you in a position where they cannot instruct unless they have an architect probably from an institute?
I can answer it. I can answer that one. Yes, it's Cap 442 of the laws of Zambia indicate that any construction works undertaken in this country must be done by a qualified engineer if it is an engineering building, a qualified architect if it's a building like this one, and the person must have a current certificate, a current license. Architecture can only be practiced with a license. You cannot, it's like a medical doctor needs to have a license for them to practice. So Cap 442 of the laws of Zambia specifically puts it that you cannot start putting up a building without using a qualified individual. As the president was explaining, a lot of investments from people have actually gone into West, where they've just thought, I can do it because he knows a Mr. Banda or Mr. Piri who knows how to do the works. And they've told them, I've done this for somebody else, and they do it. And then you hear a lot of people have got these huge buildings that are not functioning. I'm sure when you, if you remember the issues we had like in the last couple of years, where we get roofs being blown off, if architects and engineers were involved, such things would not happen, because we are trained for long periods of time for us to be able to design properly to mitigate the forces of nature, if I thought that makes sense. So it's Cap 442 of the laws of Zambia. It is very, very elaborate on the presence of an architect on the job.
Why are people reluctant to involve in it? Because if they were involving you, we wouldn't have these cases.
When we were in Livingstone, the vice president also asked the same question you're asking. Why are people not being told about all these things? People are aware, but the thoughts they have is that probably we are very expensive, okay? And that is an issue that we've again and again explained. Our previous council has got something called a housing bureau, for instance. This is a free service that we're offering to the public. And maybe I can publicly, maybe I'll actually let the IPP, the immediate past president, to explain. As architects, we are actually offering free services to the public, but no one is coming up to take us up on that offer. We only charge a small percentage to give you safety for your future, but people are not willing to take it up because partly it's knowledge, they don't know, or they're not aware we are there, or if they do, they actually just don't want to take it up, because I think corruption in this country is at its highest, as you know.
Good morning, members of the press. Good morning, Council. I just wanted to throw in a bit of weight following the question that was passed. I think what we have noted in this country is failure to adhere to standard procedure. The laws are there. We can talk about Public Health Act. We can talk about our own act, Cap 442. Since we have just come into office and riding on the foundation of core business, our mandate is basically to go around the clock and clean up, because we have noted all these anomalies that have been ongoing for some time, and that's more the reason why we have in our presence Zambia Police to help us sweep the other section of the law that our act can't exactly touch. So just to reinforce on the question that was passed, the mistakes and all these funny things that we are seeing going around are as a result of failure to just adhere to the laws that are available and procedure. But we will clean up. Thank you.
I think before our IPP comes in to elaborate on the Small House Bureau, I wanted to point out something. The process of building cities, the process of building countries, building nations or empires, or call it what you will, it's a very long historical process. And there's a very rich history that describes how human societies developed. Our country is barely 70 years old. And I come from probably a generation where the millennium was still red if you go to the village. Now it's white. So looking at how far we've come as a country, we've actually made tremendous progress. But in that progress, obviously, there are still things that we need to learn. A generation ago, when you are building a house or a dwelling, an architect is the last thing you think of. But now, as Zambians become more exposed and become more sophisticated, their thinking and their requirements have become more sophisticated. And indeed, the quality of houses, the quality of infrastructure that we're seeing around our towns and cities, including when you go back to some of our rural areas, has generally been improving. So I think it's a process of also learning and assimilating these options. It's also a question of appreciating our history and where we're coming from. And it's also a question of setting aspirations and goals for ourselves. Not too long ago, you would compare the infrastructure of, for instance, Harare and Lusaka. But recently, I happened to be in Harare. If you compare even what the local residents say about, for instance, the roads and the new structures that have come up in Lusaka, it's a complete turnaround. Where Harare on the one side, for instance, was very clean and very well taken care of because it was a deliberate measure. They've also had the increase of street vendors and litter and all these negative impacts. So it's a choice, ladies and gentlemen. It's a choice to say, I will stick to a certain standard. We as a community and we as a country will aspire for a certain standard, and we will hold ourselves accountable to it. If somebody wishes to undertake an illegal and a major development without taking into consideration of the law, without taking into consideration their own limitations in knowledge and experience in that space, then essentially, who are they helping? First of all, they are harming themselves. And they are harming the community because the hard-earned resource that our country and our citizens are trying to earn needs to give us the best value. And if we are truly saying we want to develop and we want the country to go forward, then doing things right, doing them with professional advice, doing them with knowledge it is not on the table. And those who venture into that will have to deal with our law enforcement agencies. IPP.
President, thank you. During our last conference that was held not so long ago, that was last week, when we were graced by Her Honor, the Republican Vice President. In her words, she said architecture is too important for us to keep it as a secret. And friends, I'll call you friends as the press, you have been with Zia for quite a while, and you have followed us with the works that we are doing. as an institute, would like to urge that you help us spread the word out there. That without the use of architects, one, you're not only endangering the public yourselves, but you need architecture also to reduce the cost of your construction. It is expensive to build without an architect. People will think it's cheap to sell architecture fees, but at the end of the project, you realize that the cost of the project is even much more than it would have been if you used an architect. On the Small Housing Bureau, the Institute has come up with low-cost houses that we are offloading to the general public in those communities that cannot manage architecture fees. And those come with guidance on how construction should be done, of course, so that your house is built better. It was interesting to note that the Office of the Vice President are also interested in this initiative. So soon, as an institute, be partnering with the Office of the Vice President to ensure that all those houses that are being built in the disaster managed areas are built according to the standards. We have a secretariat. We are along Greatest Road, Road 19A, and we are reachable on 0977 801229. I'll say that again, 0977 801229. I thank you.
Thank you, President. I think we'll take two last questions and then we can wrap up. Sir?
Yes. My name is Dr. Funa Kavango, Head of Department, Architecture Department at ICU. That's Information and Communication University. I've got two questions. If it's in your program, how do you plan on working with institutions like ICU to improve the state of architecture department education in Zambia? And the second question is, what is Zia's view on how to improve the research in the field of architecture in Zambia?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In our last AGM, I think, and our previous AGM as well, it was very strongly reported that the Zambia Institute of Architects has signed various MOUs with institutions of learning, and also the Zambia Institute of Architects had also had a hand in articulating those components of the academic requirements at the Zambia Qualifications Agency. So the partnerships are actually active and would like to build on them. Then secondly, when it comes to research is a very expensive endeavor, and by and large we are inundated with papers where the mentions and the references are our very own researchers and local academics, but the paper has been published at Harvard, it's been published by the World Bank, it's been published by IGC. So I think what we require to do is to collectively ensure that if it's knowledge that we seek, then we must put resources into this research aspect. We cannot simply say go and research, because every person who has undertaken any form of research realizes that there's quite a heavy cost associated with it. There are budgets that require to be met, because there are multiple activities, consultations, travel, collection of information and data, processing, analysis. There are so many components that go into research, and probably some of them include testing out the findings, and this cannot be done as in silos by just the academic institutions alone. We need to partner not only with government, we need to partner with corporates, we need to partner with the public, so that these areas of pressing concern are not only funded and the knowledge around those areas is built up and owned by us, because the research itself also has value. And a lot of the great innovations that have come up in recent times have been as a result of research. It has commercial application, it has economic application. So it makes sense that the areas of focus are aligned according to the needs of our country. Perhaps anybody wish to add on to that? Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Next question. So I think with the wonderful exchange that we have had, my duty becomes very, very simple. And that being to thank you and to express our profound gratitude for you taking the time to attend our briefing. We hope that you can get in touch for further clarification and exchange, and we hope that this is the opening of the door between our communication and collaboration, because if, regardless of how hard we might work, and regardless of all the wonderful programs and collaborations that we might have, if nobody knows about them or gets to hear about them or gets to see them, it's almost as if they never existed. So through your collaboration, I think would like to put all the positives on front and center as part of our core business. We'd also like to reiterate that we, as the Zambia Institute of Architects, will take the government policies and sentiments, especially those that were recently expressed by the Vice President on behalf of the government, that architecture should not be a secret and it should not be a public good or a product that should not be available to the Zambians at all levels. We intend to be accessible at all times, and we intend to narrow or close the gaps